Hello and welcome back to the TUM.ai GPT-3 Makeathon. I'm Omar.
And I'm Nora.
And we are super excited to have you here back at the first day of the Deep Dive Days. I'm especially more excited to know that we have had 45 teams, 200 participants, multiple challenges, multiple ideas, amazing assortment of memes, guys. You came through for me. I love you for that. And a lot of the side quests.
Easter challenge also super fun. Miguel, shout out to you.
And we are super excited to know all of these facts. And now we're even more excited to get going with the Deep Dive Days with the first talk today. Nora, how excited are you?
I'm super excited, Omar. It's going to be great with exciting speakers. And just a quick info, if you haven't joined the question channel yet with Ashley, where you can ask the questions for this talk specifically, go on the general channel, or it'll be shown below this video in a second, where you can find this channel in our Slack. And without further ado, let's get to Ashley. Ashley is an impressive person. She leads OpenAI's developer ecosystem and creative application strategy. Here she works with developers to build AI-powered applications that solve important real-world challenges. She also helped lead launches of OpenAI's most advanced research products. Most of them, or some of them you probably know, such as the GPT-3 API, Image GPT-3, and DALL-E. While doing her PhD in engineering at Stanford, already super impressive, she also worked for United States Department of Energy National Laboratory, where she led the design, development, and deployment of a grid resilience and intelligence platform, which uses AI to anticipate and recover from wildfires, ice storms, or cyber attacks. She was also selected as one of the world's global shapers and served on the advisory board, where she helped accelerate sustainable energy innovation projects. Not only her career has been more than impressive. At 31, she already traveled to all 7 continents and over 30 countries. She also trekked over 130 miles to install 3 microgrids that electrified one of the most remote villages in Himalayas. Amazing. It's an honor to present to you Ashley Pilipiszyn. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Are you here, Ashley?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for that incredible welcome and intro.
Well, it's easy. You're such an impressive person. Glad to have you here.
Of course. I am thrilled to be here, and just quickly want to shout out the incredible job all of you have done in organizing this event. So very excited to see this taking place. So kudos to you and the whole team. I know a ton of planning went into this, so well done.
Thank you, Ashley. And without further ado, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Sounds good.
Okay, and present.
Looks good. We can see it.
Okay, excellent. So thank you, everyone. To kick things off, as mentioned, my name is Ashley Pilipiszyn, and I'm from OpenAI. And I'm going to talk to you this morning a little bit about the GPT-3 app ecosystem. So 10 months ago, which is hard to believe already, we launched our very first commercial product at OpenAI called the OpenAI API, which I believe hopefully all of you now have access to. And this has become the core platform for accessing our latest AI models. Unlike most AI systems, which are designed for one particular specialized use case, our API actually provides a general purpose text in, text out interface. And it basically allows users to try it on virtually any English language task. Since we've launched, we've seen over 300 production-ready applications utilizing our generative capabilities, data parsing, summarization, search, and classification capabilities across a wide variety of industries, which I'll get into in a little bit. So first of all, just to back things up, for those of you who haven't heard about OpenAI, we are an AI research and deployment company with the mission to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. And really what's unique about us is we are a combination of startup, research lab, and safety and policy group. And really it's the combination of these 3 elements that really allows us to push the frontier of AI. And so the thing to remember about OpenAI is we have a core research backbone. And so over the past couple of years, we've had a number of breakthroughs across from image GPT to audio with Jukebox and MuseNet. to learning dexterity with solving a Rubik's Cube, all the way back to AlexNet, our multi-agent work, and then most recently, as some of you may have seen, with Clip and DALL-E. But what I'm going to focus most of this talk today is on GPT-3. And so the key thing to remember here is that this model doesn't have a goal or objective other than predicting the very next word. And so my colleague Andrew Main will provide a technical workshop later, which I hope you all will attend. So he'll go into more details. But the one thing I want you to remember for this is if you've ever played a game of charades, for example, and you've had a fantastic partner who within the first 30 seconds was able to figure out either a movie category or whatever you were trying to describe, instantly. You guys were both on the same page and were able to figure out the task that you had at hand. On the other hand, you've probably also been with a partner when you're playing charades who you go through the entire 5 minutes or whatever it may be, and you still can't figure out what the person is trying to tell you. GPT-3 is very similar in that based on the information you give it ahead of time, it's going to just try to predict the next word based on that information. And so this gets into what's known as prompt design and engineering. Again, Andrew will talk more about that. But anyways, the key result here is that there are capabilities with what's known as few-shot learning and generalizability. And this is really what enables GPT-3 to be widely useful for most natural tasks without needing any specific training in between tasks. Another key thing to mention here is at OpenAI, safety is a huge thing that we work on. And so bias and misuse are important industry-wide problems that we take incredibly seriously. Some things to keep in mind is we review all applications and approve only those for production that use GPT-3 in a responsible manner. We require all our developers to implement a variety of safety measures such as rate limits, user verification, testing, or human-in-the-loop requirements. And if you want to read more about this, we actually have a safety best practices guide in our documentation as well. You probably also have seen we've developed and deployed a content filter that classifies text as safe, sensitive, or unsafe. We do have it set to err on the side of caution, which you may have seen results in a higher rate of false positives. But the key thing here is by releasing via an API, this allows us to gain experience on how these models behave in the real world, and then helps us to continue to identify and reduce problems. As I said before, being able to be really successful with GPT-3, and all of you will get the chance through this Makeathon to experience prompt design and engineering on your own. As I said before, it's very similar to playing charades or working with a partner or colleague when you provide them instructions to complete a task. So these are three very high-level things to remember: is trying to instruct the API what kind of task you'd like, being able to provide that data or information in advance, and then there are a variety of settings as well that you can use to further tweak and tune the API as you're working with it. But again, Andrew will go through this in much more detail, but these are just some high-level things to keep in mind as you begin exploring through this event. So zooming out a bit, the core capabilities GPT-3 offers generally fall into these buckets. So there's classification, then there's transformation. So these can be things like summarizing documentation, translating into different languages, or even text to emoji. For our completion endpoint, you may have seen some demos where folks have been generating React components or a variety of other things. For generation, you can think about, generating new startup ideas or product ideas. GPT-3 is also great at conversation. This is in the context of chatbots. And then you can also think about factual responses, so any type of question and answer capabilities as well. And so taking these host of capabilities results in an entirely new ecosystem of Software 3.0 applications. And what we've seen so far out of those 300 applications I mentioned in the beginning, we have seen these applications in a wide variety of industries, ranging from legal, HR, financing, marketing, game development, code, customer support, productivity, science education, and search. and there's more being submitted for pre-launch reviews every day. And so you can see we've had GPT-3 job description rewriters. There's self-creating slideshows, and so many other apps, and many that I'm looking forward to seeing what all of you are able to build as well. So over the next few slides, I'll hopefully spark your imagination a little bit as well in terms of what's been done and what are some of the capabilities that GPT-3 offers or applications that you can build. Some things folks or developers have been able to do have been focused on email. And for example, the startup Otherside AI has been very successful in leveraging GPT-3 for email completions. Search as well, and I'll mention one thing too to be aware of is we offer a completion endpoint as well as a search endpoint. Many people think our API is actually just one endpoint. There's actually two, and search is an incredibly powerful endpoint that I highly recommend you check out as you're developing. But you can think of leveraging, for example, okay. A context-based dictionary. You can think about, all right, how are you leveraging semantic search to be able to actually search in natural language and query something without actually having that document have that type of context. So, for example, if you're looking up a document and you want to know how many water bottles were sold at a baseball game, for example, but the actual article didn't have those words in there, but it was able to extract the relevant and surface the relevant context to be able to answer that question. And so there's a lot of capabilities in here. I will also mention something to think about when you're looking at search. There's also really great combinations, or it's really great to leverage search with classification use cases. So something else to think about. Additionally, we've had developers creating a variety of financial tools. So for example, taking a quarterly press release and then being able to extract that data, so do data parsing and then have some kind of summarization. You can also, on the flip side, instead of doing data parsing and summarization, you can use it to generate financial statements and creating balance sheet, as one of our community ambassadors, Yash, was able to do as well. Lots of exciting stuff in the education space. So for example, one of our developers created Magnum, which is focused on AI-driven math animations without coding. You can also leverage GPT-3 for automatic quiz generation on a variety of topics. So that's been very exciting to see. A lot of the demos that have gone viral and what has been very exciting is the no-code web design. But I think even more broader is just the whole no-code movement and actually being able to program through natural language and just say, generate a website like Stripe that is about a chat app and being able to have that readily available. And so we think this is really exciting, especially for increasing accessibility to being able to build with some of these tools. Also for data visualization, so actually being able to ask GPT-3 to generate a variety of bar charts and graphs based on data you have, as opposed to having to generate yourself, being able to have that generated through natural language as well. SQL and React has also been a very exciting application as well. Being able to work with your database, also being able to generate React components, as I said before. Also very exciting, we've had some developers look at vision and AR. So for example, being able to parse ingredients and actually figure out, okay, is this ingredient unhealthy? And okay, if I don't know this ingredient, like, what is it? And please give a definition. And then one of our community ambassadors, Brahm, actually used GPT-3 to create a AR version of himself and have a conversation with himself, which was very, very cool as well. We've seen applications in robotics as well. And you can imagine this being applied also for a variety of smart devices at home, whether it's Alexa or Siri or any of them. And so I think for robotics and any smart devices, thinking about integrating with GPT-3 has also been really exciting. So, and kind of to wrap this all up before we jump into questions, we released a new blog post just in the last couple weeks, focused on kind of what the current state of apps are, and also dives a little bit deeper into 3 companies, Algolia, Studio Fable, and Viable, and how they've been using GPT-3 in production. And I think one of the key things here to take away is we've had a lot of developers who've been really successful in developing demos and prototypes and proofs of concept. And now we're seeing not only these kind of first versions being developed, but now being able to actually move to production. So from prototype to production, I think it's going to be a very, very exciting time as more companies and more developers actually now begin to continue to scale with their use of GPT-3. And so with that, I am delighted to take questions, and again, very excited to see what all of you build. This is just the beginning of the applications, and I think all of you hopefully will have a great time in building your own apps going forward.
Hey, amazing talk. I've enjoyed this one so much. Actually, I'm going to abuse my power here as a moderator and kind of ask the first question. So like we've seen like many fields of application, to be honest, I'm most excited about the one with the chart generator. God knows I would have used that for my thesis. But I want to ask you, and I want to have your opinion, which field of application excites you the most, but also which field of application is used the most, like which one is the most common?
Yeah. So what excites me the most is education. So science and education in general. So, and I think also just given the year the whole world has had, and thinking about, okay, what is the future of education for online learning, being able to have personalized learning sessions. I think this is a very exciting area for GPT-3, and also increasing accessibility. So we have sites like Coursera, Udacity. We have so much rich online content and education materials. I think the next step in the future of education is how then can you personalize your learning? If you want to dive deeper on a particular subject, imagine having a chatbot or AI that then would curate additional resources for you and then quiz you on those. And so I think that is just super, super exciting. And I can't wait to see what more people build in that. In terms of the areas we've seen the most applications, pretty naturally, given GPT-3's just in natural generative capabilities, I think a lot of people gravitated towards creative writing, poetry, which has also been incredible as well. So many people have done so many different types of, for example, developer Janelle Shane, she did in October, she called it Bottober, and used GPT-3 for a variety of stories and things like that. So we've seen a lot happen there. I think also in like game development. So maybe some of you have used AI Dungeon before, and being able to kind of choose your own adventure game development has also been really exciting to see folks build on top of.
Well, amazing. Like, of course, the game is one of the things that actually kind of speak to my heart a bit, but like accessibility in education is one of the most exciting things in my opinion. Yeah. We've also mentioned in our opening ceremony in TUM.ai how we want to actually use AI for like more wider spread so fields. Not just advertising or things like that.
And especially art, I also find super interesting because that's like a new aspect of creativity. Because we're only used to like human creativity, and then have like a system which creates like a different kind of creativity. I think is so fascinating to see, and almost like beautiful in a completely different way. And I love it. Like it's so
beautifully
cool.
geeky and just like so much.
And different parts excite different people as well, which I think also makes it so cool that it's so diverse in so many different aspects.
Yeah, great.
Also, we have a few questions from participants. One of them is, for example, how frequently is GPT-3 updated with new data?
Yeah, so the last time Yes. So the last time we updated GPT-3 was August of last year. So we're hoping to definitely keep that updated, but right now the data is through August of last year.
Good to know. We also have another question, which is whether at some points you can talk about the weak points of GPT-3, special obstacles that you're not able to surpass yet.
Yeah. So, an excellent question. So, a great way, referring back to the charades example. So, some of the limitations with GPT-3 come down to also the prompt design and engineering. So, for example, if you prompt GPT-3 to go in a certain way, or you're not providing enough information, or sometimes providing too much information, you might get some results that you're like, oh, well, how did that happen? And it might seem a little off the wall. So really being able to, it's actually like tweeting more than anything. So how can you, in 140 characters or whatever the limit is now, convey exactly what kind of outcome on a particular task that you would like accomplished? And that is the only information that GPT-3 is going to be able to work with. And so there are some limitations in that, and being able to, appropriately develop those kind of prompts to get the intended result. So, for example, GPT-3 is incredibly strong at like data parsing, summarization, classification, things like that. But for some of the more open-ended, whether it's a variety of chatbots or things like that, it's really having solid prompts that will have to carry the generations through. So being really thoughtful about how you're crafting your prompts. And Andrew will do like a phenomenal job in his technical workshop of different tips and tricks of how you can kind of overcome some of these hurdles through doing really good prompt design engineering to get that intended outcome for your application.
Yeah, work well with the weaknesses, I'm sure. Andrew will get into that. Sounds very exciting.
Yeah, especially excited about Andrew as well.
And we have another question, which is, what are your plans to make GPT-3 accessible for people who do not have a high knowledge of natural language processing?
Yeah, so that is the absolute, is one of my favorite things about GPT-3 is you don't need to be an AI expert. So one of the most interesting things is some folks who have built applications have never coded before, have never used an API before using our API. So really it is meant to be accessible and usable by anyone. You don't need to be an AI expert. You don't need a PhD. You don't need to be in natural language. Like I said before, if you've played charades or you've worked with coworkers and given them instructions, you can use GPT-3. And so I think that is incredibly exciting, is that it's all about this human AI collaboration, working together and being able to program, or even if you want to say code, with natural language. So you're writing a set of instructions, which that's something everyone can do. You've probably written a coworker or a colleague, hey, I would like you to do this, this, and this. This is how you do it. That is what it's like working with GPT-3. So I think it's very exciting. It's interesting also from developers we've worked with who have deep knowledge in NLP, in AI, sometimes actually had a more difficult time ramping up with GPT-3 because they were used to how they traditionally had worked with other AI models, and actually had to not over-engineer and try to change all of these things. So it's been very, very interesting to see how different folks have interacted. But a lot of people who've done all the creative arts, for example, have done really, really amazing things, and actually helped us discover new capabilities. So, for example, we didn't even know text to emoji was possible until one of our developers just tried it out, and we were like, oh, GPT-3 can do that too? Amazing. So same thing like with poetry. So many of these things are because our developers are really thinking outside the box and testing GPT-3 in a new type of way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most things that excite us about GPT-3 is actually it's like low barrier of accessibility to AI, because it's also like one of the things we try to achieve here. And yeah, like the over-engineering struggle, I hear you, Ashley. I do that myself as well. But yeah, the text with emoji thing is also, well, that would make life a bit easier with the keyboard.
Also, like just now all the possibilities that all sorts of different minds can now like give their input into AI and create different ideas. So that's just so cool to think of, that not just specific people that have studied for ages to learn a certain thing have access to such a thing. So that's why it's so cool that you've created such a thing as GPT-3. Like,
yeah,
so
great.
exciting. Maybe we'll find another question. When is GPT-4 coming out?
Nice question.
Great question. We should probably ask GPT-3.
They might know. Maybe one of you participants can ask.
Whenever you have a question, just put it there.
Can try everything. But yeah, thank you so much, Ashley. This has been super exciting to talk to you and hear you speak about GPT-3 and OpenAI.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ashley. Yeah.
Next up, we'll have Andrew talk to us in about 20 minutes now at 8 p.m. So stay tuned for that. And thanks again, Ashley, and see you in a sec. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.